This is Agriculture Today. We are kicking off this Wednesday's programming with our K-State and Washburn University School of Law professor, Roger McEowen, joining us for this week's Ag Law Update. So, Roger, thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you, Samantha.
Absolutely. Always great to have you in studio. And this week, we're talking through a bit of a messy loan situation.
Yeah, we sure are. This is a case that recently was decided by the Texas Court of Appeals involving a couple of lenders in northwest Texas, kind of in the Amarillo, Lubbock area.
From what I understand, a producer, sought out to borrow money, which is a normal thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of farmers borrow money as part of being necessary to run their operations. Not everybody can operate on a cash basis, just pay cash for everything as you go along. And so financing and ag operations being dependent on financing is absolutely critical.
Absolutely. And this specific producer, he sought a loan from Agrifund is the lender in this case, and it defaulted, right? And that's where this gets tricky.
Yeah, the primary lender of his farming operation was a company known as Agrifund, LLC. They're the plaintiff in this case, and they were financing the farming operations. And this fellow is a cotton farmer in northwest Texas, and Agrifund had secured their interest in his collateral, and that included his crops and proceeds thereof. So they're securing the cotton crop and the sale proceeds, or whatever his proceeds are of that cotton crop. They have a security interest in it that is perfected, we call that, and they did that by filing a security interest with the Secretary of State's office. And that's a public record that's out there. Well, he defaults on that loan, and they had renewed notes and issued new notes over a period of time, but he defaulted on all of them. Well, shortly thereafter, within a couple of months, he gets another loan from a local bank northwest of Lubbock in a small town. And for whatever reason, the bank loaned him the money. And I still don't know the backstory behind this, whether they just simply didn't check the record and didn't find anything. If they did check the record, I have a suspicion that they just didn't check, because they would have seen that Agrifund is already secured, and that if he defaults on the bank loan, they're going to come in after Agrifund and may not get paid anything. So I'm still puzzled as to why the loan was made in the first place. But they did. They loaned him the money to buy the inputs necessary to put a cotton crop in the ground, and they took a security interest in growing crops and proceeds thereof.
So those same crops and proceeds that Agrifund had already had claim to in the first place. Mm-hmm. Messy situation. So now we have this rural bank and this other lender kind of in competition for what happens with this producer's crop.
Yeah, he defaults on the bank loan. So he's in default on Agrifund's loan. He's in default on the bank loan. And then he harvests the cotton crop and sells the crop at the local elevator. And the elevator is trying to figure out, who do we pay? Because there are multiple creditors out there. So they write checks both ways. And Agrifund says, now, wait a minute. We have priority on all of this. We beat out the bank. And the bank came up with an argument that said that they had a priority position because they were a purchased money secured creditor. They had a PMSI, a purchased money security interest in the crops. And if that's the case, there's a rule. Actually, there used to be a rule that said that you could jump ahead of a prior perfected lender. So that was their argument, that we loaned the money, we took an interest in the inputs, we loaned it to buy the inputs, but that was going to become crops and proceeds thereof, and so therefore we jump ahead of the bank under this special rule.
And that didn't end up applying in this case, right?
No, that's completely incorrect. That's not right by the bank. Now, a purchase money collateral under Texas law means goods that secure a purchase money obligation incurred with respect to that collateral. So then what is a purchase money obligation? And we get into the weeds a bit because it's necessary to explain what Texas law says on this, and many states would be similar. A purchase money obligation is an obligation of an obligor incurred as part or all of the price of the collateral or for value to enable the debtor to acquire rights in the use of the collateral if the value is in so fact used. Okay, so what does that mean? That basically means that if I buy stuff from a business that finances the purchase of the stuff that they're selling to me, yes, they get a purchase money security interest in that. Okay, so if he buys cotton from the bank and the bank loans him money to buy the bank's cotton, then the bank has a prior perfected security interest in the cotton and the proceeds thereof. Banks don't sell cotton. They provide lending of funds. And so the statute, by definition, is not securing goods that the bank sells. And that's the purpose of a purchase money security interest. So, if I'm a farmer and I'm up to my eyeballs in loans and nobody's going to loan me money, but I need one more loan so that I can buy inputs to get a crop in the ground so I can generate some income to pay off my indebtedness. You see the vicious circle you can get into here. Then I can have a lender who sells that stuff to me to finance the purchase from them. That's what a purchase money security interest is. So the bank is claiming here that they had a PMSI because it had perfected a security interest in crops to be grown, which met the definition of goods. So they said, okay, by statute, we can finance goods. Goods are crops to be grown. However, the statute also said it has to be a good in existence at the time the security agreement attaches, basically meaning in this instance when the loan is made. When does seed become crops? Well, no sooner than germination.
Sure.
And he hadn't even planted the crop at the time he took the loan out. So you don't have a good that you're securing at that point in time. So none of that argument made any sense. The bank ends up losing their interest in this. Agrifund comes first. Now, there was one avenue left here. Texas does have a statute. It's a lien statute, and it says if you get a lien in certain situations, you can be on equal footing in this instance with Agrifund, and that is an ag supply dealer lien. And a lot of states have those statutes. Those came in the 1980s during the farm debt crisis, and it basically comes back to that situation I just highlighted. If I need a loan to get a crop in the ground, nobody's going to loan me money because I'm in debt to everybody. If I go to a supply dealer can get a statutory lien in the funds they loan me to buy the inputs from them. It's kind of like the PMSI and crop rule, which was repealed, by the way, in 1999. So what the bank was arguing here, there is no PMSI and crop rule in Texas. It's gone. Iowa has what's known as an Appendix 2 version that they put back in, but Texas does not. So there is no PMSI and crop rule. So what the bank should have said when the debtor came in, when the farmer came in, was, look, we won't loan you the money because we see Agrifund's interest is out there and they're superior to us if you default. But here's this other statute that's in Texas. If you can go find an ag supply dealer that can sell you the seed and the chemicals, they can get a statutory lien that will put them on equal footing with Agrifund. They might loan you the money. That's what should have happened in this instance.
Absolutely. Yeah, if we could go back in time, I think that producer would have opted for that decision too, because the outcome of this has been very messy on all party sides.
Well,
right?
It's really bad for the bank because the bank lost its interest, and they're going to get beat out by Agrifund in this instance, and that's what the court said on appeal. Yeah, Agrifund is prior. Bank, you are unsecured, and so when the dust all settles in this, the bank's probably going to get nothing in return for that loan.
So a series of unfortunate events that led to a big mess. And you've been communicating that with students this week as well, haven't you?
Yeah. In fact, for the K-State students, I just covered this about 10 days ago and talked to them just earlier this week that, look, we've got something live here. This is why this is important. You have to pay attention to this as a lender. I said, some of you are going to end up, after you graduate, you're going to be working for a lender. You're going to be working for a private bank, a national bank, some type of ag credit, or you're going to be in farming. You need to know how these rules work so that you don't create a major mess, which is what happened for the bank in this instance. And this was a rural bank.
Well, Roger, I know that there's a lot more to this story, too, that we didn't get to talk through, just a lot of weeds to get through. So if producers are looking for more information on the story, where can they find that at?
They can find this on my blog, which is washburnlaw.edu/Walter, and then you can scroll down and find the link to my blog. It'll also be posted on K-State's Ag Manager website.
Wonderful. Well, I'll be sure to share the link to both of those listings there if you're interested in reading more about this case specifically. But Roger, as always, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Samantha.
Absolutely. Once again, everyone, that was K-State and Washburn University School of Law professor Roger McEowen joining us for an ag law update and a messy bank situation.